How are you doing on this
Hey, what's going on?
Monday, Tuesday?
That's
It's
right.
Tuesday
That's what's
there, right?
going.
It's Monday here, Tuesday there.
Man, we're living the future. It's so bright. I'd have shades on and all that, but you're gonna love Tuesday. Tuesday's awesome.
Flying cars,
That's right.
jetpacks, self-driving airplanes.
How you doing, bud? You good?
Good. I'm doing good. I am excited about the news today. We've got some fun
Okay.
stuff to talk about.
Yeah,
And
definitely, definitely.
my news segment here for folks. John and I both contribute, some links to the show every week. Mine are a little bit more game related this week, so they're
Yep.
like it's like Slacker news.
Yeah, this is like the Statler and Waldorf combination here. But I'm the oldest of the old men, so
So
that's
welcome
why I
to
have
the
no game
CEO,
links.
the official
Uh,
Telerik podcast. I'm Ed Charbeneau. This is John Bristowe,
Howdy.
and we're going to talk about what's interesting to us in the news this week and what we think of it, what's going on. And the first pick for me is Microsoft Flight Simulator. This is like a big deal, apparently.
Yeah, yeah.
Which I
This is
didn't
awesome.
know was a big deal until I
What?
saw the.
Are you
I
serious?
had no idea this thing was
Oh my
coming.
God, dude. This is the Vatican, Mecca, uh some some other famous religious area all rolled into one, all welded into one for folks who are into flying and flight sims. This is the ultimate.
When I saw the release, then I realized how big of a deal it was.
Oh
But
yeah.
leading up to the release, I had no clue it was coming. I didn't know it was. I mean, I know Microsoft Flight Simulator is kind of a big, you know, one of the big, flight sims. There's like another one. I don't know the name. I'm not a flight sim guy. I do play them from time to time, but I'm not like a hardcore like geeking out person, and I don't have like the $1,000 like rig that goes around your desk with all the wheel things
I don't believe you. I
and the
believe you are very
flaps.
I believe you're a flight simulator. You turn your nose up on this. You don't think this is real gaming.
I
That's what
turn
I
my
believe.
nose down and crash is what I do.
Okay,
That's
fine.
But
Good
anyhow,
one. Good one.
Microsoft Flight Simulator. I guess this is something that people have been waiting for like a decade. The last one was like Microsoft Flight Simulator X. Now Flight Simulator 2020 is out. The reason I brought it up on the show, not only is it pretty popular, but the tech behind it is pretty freaking
Mm,
impressive.
yep.
So this is polling Bing Maps data, and it processes a bunch of stuff on Azure AI. And what you get is some pretty amazing visuals. Some of the stuff is generated by AI as you play. So you kind of get prompted when you install it, and you start running it, whether you want to stay connected to the internet while you play and let it stream map data. And it streams more than just map data. It does like real time weather.
Yep.
Um, it does it will build the the buildings and terrain that you see on the fly. So it'll pick up on the satellite imagery that there's buildings, and then it will
Sure.
pick appropriate 3D models to kind of scatter about and create the landscape. So if there's not a human created city where somebody sat down like a 3D modeler and built out a city, which I'm assuming some of these pictures are manually
Yep.
created, because you can tell when the AI's created it. It doesn't quite look this good.
Yeah, of course.
If you're looking at the picture we're seeing right now, it's almost photographic realism here. Things like bridges and stuff kind of get rendered pretty funky when they're auto gen, but for the most part, I mean, it does a fantastic job. Um, Playing it, one thing I've noticed is the water effects are just absolutely phenomenal. You start flying over an area that has water, even if it's land based, and there's just like large lakes around and stuff like that. The water is rendered so gorgeously that you start to lose track of the fact that you're in a game. I mean,
Mm,
it looks pretty phenomenal. So the graphics in here are top notch. It doesn't come without its usual uh, Microsoft drama, though.
Okay.
So I've got some more articles here about some of the places where there are issues with the game. Um, I myself haven't run into any issues, but I have a pretty beefy rig to play
What
this
are
with.
the minimum requirements here? Let's take a look at this.
Yeah, let's see if we can find
They're
exactly. And
they're
by the
just above
way,
this listing.
let's get into price real quick. Oh yeah, we'll
Okay.
dive into that as well.
Yeah.
So price for this is it's pretty average for games. There's like
Mm-hmm.
a premium edition that has some extra handcrafted international airports.
Okay.
Like I said, that handcrafted thing is there are places that are auto-generated. Almost everything's auto-generated by this
Sure.
AI technology, but there's a lot of hand-modeled places that look really good and detailed.
Gotcha.
So if you
Gotcha.
buy like the premium edition, you get all those included out of the box. Um, I myself am using the Xbox Game Pass edition, which costs a whole dollar. So if you have Xbox Live on your Xbox account, you can
Gotcha.
add Game Pass for a dollar a month.
Okay.
And I have like a 2 year subscription already. And I bought the extra dollar a month thing. And I didn't know that Xbox Game Pass will carry over to the PC as well.
Hmm.
So if you're using an Xbox, you get, so many games you can play every month with the Game Pass. And evidently it works on the PC too. So there's PC only games that you get on your PC. So that's pretty cool. But in order to play that on your PC, this is the minimum requirements. And
Right.
if you've done any PC gaming in the past, John, like I have, you know that minimum requirements
Oh, sure.
mean what? What do they
At
mean
least
to you?
10 times the amount of power.
Well, what they say is this is the minimum to start the game and run it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like that's about it. You're going to get to the loading screen and you will be able to play the game, but the experience is probably not going to be great.
Yep.
So the minimum specs, it says an i5 4460, Ryzen 3,
Mm-hmm.
or with an NVIDIA GTX 7700 or an RX 570 from AMD. Now,
Yeah.
I wouldn't attempt it with that stuff.
No.
I don't think you're going to have a very good experience. You're probably going to be running this thing at like, I don't know, 640 resolution or something, just really, really poor. Um, I'm very fortunate. I have a NVIDIA 2080 Ti
Yep.
and an i9 9900 processor, and it will run, quote, at ultra settings on 4K resolution. Now, that's what you get when you boot the game up. It says it auto detects that you're able to run that.
Yep.
That's not going to run at 60 frames per second, though.
No.
You're,
This is the new crisis.
yeah,
This is the new standard. This is the new benchmark for gaming, I think,
it
by the
really
sounds of it.
is.
Yeah.
So that I noticed right away that I was probably, just ballparking it. I'm probably getting like 20 frames per second out of this thing, so I cut it down to 2K instead, and was able to run it at ultra settings. And it's pretty
Okay.
impressive the way it looks.
Okay.
So I mean, you have to have a really high-end PC to run this, and that's where this next article comes in. It's talking about, was Microsoft Flight Simulator worth the wait, and it goes through how long it's been. It was 14 years, so I guess more than a decade since Simulator X came out. Um, and it goes through what the requirements are and what kind of results you're going to see. Um, how the visuals are really impressive and stuff.
Sure.
But there's also some glitches in the game,
Of course.
and this one might sound pretty interesting to you because it's in Australia.
Yes. So there's actually a tower. There's actually Melbourne is a city in the southern part of Australia. It's in a state called Victoria. It's a very popular city. It's very architecturally interesting. A lot of really cool cafe culture type people live there. And the skyline itself is very interesting. Like there's lots of interesting buildings and some which are being built. There's some very thin, tall buildings that are built there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess this is a reflection of that.
It is a typo. So there is a 212-story, quote, monolith in Flight Simulator because somebody misplaced a decimal point.
Yes.
So I guess, or put a wrong character in here. So I think it was supposed to be, let's see.
20 stories, maybe.
Yeah, like 20 stories tall, something like that. It ended up being 212 stories tall.
It's okay.
So,
it's okay. We'll work with it.
Yeah, so
it's like that Spire in Halo, you know, just have a laser beam shoot out of it.
Yeah, so it's pretty interesting to see, you know, what a typo can do in a game like this. So.
Oh sure.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Love it.
Let's see, we got advertisements. Let's
yes.
Past those. Keeping with the theme of AI.
Yep.
So, the AI generates a lot of the terrain and stuff in Flight Simulator. And keeping with that theme, I thought this was a pretty cool example here. So some artists took the Roman emperor statues and ran it through some AI and then touched it up with Photoshop to kind of recreate what these folks looked like back then. And I thought this was pretty cool.
He kind of looks like Jim Carrey and George Clooney, you know, from just looking at that glancing there. So
interestingly enough, one of them, I think it's the one on the right, this Maximus.
Yeah.
They found out that he had some similar thyroid issue that Andre the Giant had.
Oh, okay.
So they actually used footage and imagery of Andre the Giant to help produce.
I see.
The image here. So you may see the likeness of certain celebrities or things in these depictions because they used that as training data to produce them. So I thought it was pretty cool. They came up with some pretty convincing imagery anyway.
He actually he doesn't look like Jim Carrey. He actually looks like okay, I'm going to start making like go the first one. The first one looks like Steve Carell, you know. So that kind of, you know, look of disappointment. You know, and you know that look he's got on his face where he's just like, whatever. And then this guy, what does he look like? He looks like, I recognize that celebrity type, but okay, let's keep going. Oh my God, I don't know who that is.
It's so, pretty cool that Dad? You can see the transition.
Yeah.
They take some artistic liberties, I think, with the hair and whatnot to kind of modernize it a little bit.
It's not bad though. It's pretty good. I like it.
Yeah, it's really good. And there's a whole slew of these. I don't want to go through all of them. There's something like probably like 50 of them here.
That guy looked like he was old school. Like what's that show with Will Ferrell? This guy looks like the class clown.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay, there you go. Yeah, there's Steve Carell.
And this is a photo you can actually zoom in on and look at all of them.
Oh, okay. Oh, nice.
I mean, it's pretty cool though. These are people we didn't have photos of, and we've been able to generate realistic photos based on statues. And
I like it.
AI.
I like it. That's cool. That's cool.
I thought that was really interesting. I like, you know, anytime they're able to kind of resurrect the past with technology, I think it's really neat. There's a lot of interesting things they can do with LiDAR. I don't know if you've seen any of that.
Yeah, LiDAR is that light radar that you see in certain phones like the iPhone 12 or 11, whatever it is. Yeah, great
stuff. They've used that here in Louisville, where I live. They went through one of the hotels that supposedly had a secret passage to escape for Al Capone, because he used to come down and play poker by the riverside.
Yeah.
And they put the LiDAR in one of the rooms in the hotel and found where the trapdoor used to be.
Oh, perfect.
because they could
Yep.
see where the construction had changed and there used to be a doorway. So they followed it up from the basement, and they could actually make a connection where there was a ladder that would connect up to that room where the old
Gotcha.
construction was. So it's
Yep.
pretty cool stuff. I love stuff like
Nice.
that. It's neat to see them do it with some photographic work too.
Cool.
What do we have here, John? Talk about some AWS.
Yeah, so everyone's running stuff on either AWS or Azure, maybe Google. But if you're doing it with AWS, that is, you're targeting the API and you want to do so via .NET. Their 3.5 release is now available, the SDK for AWS in .NET. And so basically they're moving towards, more Unity, more support, etc., running on .NET Core, etc. They're adding support for a variety of new features, but this is great news for people who are using AWS, especially the SDK, and want to be able to programmatically target instances and do things with it. There's all kinds of features. The thing about AWS that's really daunting is when you bring up the menu screen for AWS, just that fly out of project types that come out. There's just so much that you can do. So just a quick FYI for folks who are wanting to target AWS using the SDK.
I love this comment here. Windows Phone and Silverlight. These
Are
platforms
discouraged by Microsoft.
discouraged by Microsoft. Therefore,
That's right.
They have been dropped, and there is no
Yep.
migration.
We also
path.
discouraged targeting, x86 and any Coleco fans out there. We're going to discourage that as well. So
Atari
anyway.
2600 migrations. I think
That's
those are
right.
Really terrible. Maker Tech on the land.
Yeah, this is an article that Tatham wrote. He's a gentleman that works down here in Australia, and he's been exploring getting into IoT. Troy Hunt's been doing this as well, but just reading about his experience using IoT devices, this is a great opportunity, especially with folks who are at home and kind of looking around and maybe thinking of automating things, like, I could automate that, or I could automate that, or trying to get their hands dirty with IoT. This is a great sort of primer on what's available and how to use them. And he goes into some great detail about what his requirements are for himself personally, but then later on in the article, he cites a lot of the sort of modules that are available. So obviously starts with Raspberry Pi, but then goes into a variety of other ones, Z-Wave and Zigbee-based devices, etc., for example. He just goes through the sort of list of all of them, and his configuration is basically one that utilizes his Unify setup. Unify is the sort of Wi-Fi setup du jour / router setup for most homes these days. It's if you got a big home, this is what you want to use. But then he talks a little bit about the devices themselves and the requirements for them. So he's looking to automate a variety of things. But there are so many different IoT devices out there, but they're great to pick up. They're super cheap, and they're really easy to target. And he talks a lot about what they are, how they work, how to get involved, and then explores ideas for using them. So it's a great, great time to get into this stuff if you're looking to, get your hands dirty, so to speak.
Yeah, I personally have the Ubiquity network at home, and
Yep.
I don't have the Unify. I have, let's see, what is mine called? The Amplify, which is more commercial, commercial grade.
Yeah, consumer-friendly devices from
these
Unify.
Unifies are the industrial grade.
They're
a little bit more expensive. So
not too much more though. Not too much more. They're okay. They just look like you have all these UFOs flying around your house.
Yeah, I imagine if you're running things outdoors, then these are pretty handy because they can. I imagine penetrate brickwork and stuff a little bit better. I know my Amplify isn't quite strong enough, it's kind of funny because it will cover the entire house, which is all wood and drywall interior. So wood beams and studs, drywall walls. It will penetrate the entire house. But you go 5 foot away from the mesh point outside where there's a brick wall, and you get almost no signal at all.
Yeah, good. That's great.
The penetration through brick is not great. But,
well, it may not be an omnidirectional antenna. That's why. So who knows?
It's great indoors though, and it covers my entire house. And it's one of the most stable routers that I've had.
Yes.
And I've owned it for about 3 years now, I think. And I was in this vicious cycle of replacing routers yearly because they just stopped working.
Ah, so here's a classic example of wiring up a little module to your boiler if you want to see what the temperature of your water is, for example. And the thing is, most of the devices you have in your home, when I say devices, what I mean is most of the appliances, most of the infrastructure of your home does have ports available for you to connect to. In fact, this is what typically your maintenance guy will connect to. You can use the same. And everyone gravitates to the garage door opener because that's the one that most people have. But these are all things that you can connect to, and they're not hard to wire up. You know, wire up ground to ground, wire up one lead to another, and then you've got pins that kind of get you basic inputs, outputs, that sort of thing. So yeah, I thought it was a great little article there.
That's good.
Yeah,
it's really
yeah, I thought it was a great little primer if you're just wanting to get your hands dirty. These things aren't expensive. You can order them online. They come in the mail, and then it's just up to you to start tinkering with them. And I love how he uses the 2 Oreo shot here to give you a sense of dimensions.
I thought it came with Oreos. I'm disappointed now.
That's right.
Very cool. Git branch cheat sheet. I've seen some good ones of these.
Yeah. So Git branching, obviously, for those folks who don't know, branches are the way in which we can have different kind of versioning within our source control for a particular repo. So you can create branches, you can switch branches, et cetera, and basically allow you to jump to different parts of your code. It's a great thing to do if you're creating new features. For example, you create a new feature branch, and then you can merge after the fact. However, branching at some times can be a bit difficult to kind of get right in your head, especially with merging and things like that. So what Elijah Manor has done is provided us with a cheat sheet of the commands that you need to know in order to get this done effectively. And he explains a little bit later in the article about what they do and how they work. To I guess, criticize a little bit, the Git documentation is difficult. It's a bit terse. It's a bit beefy, and it can be sometimes hard to understand. There's a lot of assumptions made in the docs, like, hey, this person knows everything about Git already, and we'll just go from there. And so there's a lot of demand out there in the marketplace, I think, for folks to kind of just get the bare minimum, because I don't think people feel really like they learn anything until they can start being effective with the technology. And Git is one of those technologies that really requires a lot of background reading before you start playing with it. There are some companies. GitHub has tried really hard to try and make it easier by providing walkthroughs, and this is just another example. But it can be challenged, so don't feel bad. It's okay. Everyone struggles with this at first, but I thought this was a great little resource.
Yeah, I love cheat sheets, especially ones that you can print.
Yeah.
This looks printable to me.
Yep.
Oh yeah, you can even zoom in and get like a large version of it. So here's my suggestion. A couple of them actually. I love these printable ones because you can do a lot with them. So one of the things you can do is you can print that out like a mouse pad. So you have it like right underneath. I'm serious, like right there at your disposal anytime. Another one, you're gonna really like this one, John. Back at the door in the restroom at work.
Okay.
No doubt. A lot of people spend a lot of time staring at the back of that door. And if you're in a place that's highly technical, then why not put some useful information there?
All right.
I know it sounds silly. I know it's
no,
taboo subject.
Hey, dude, I like it.
It's a great spot. Throw your cheat sheets up in the restroom. I know a lot of people are probably working from home right now, so that's probably not a appropriate thing to do. I'm sure your wife would.
Yeah, your wife may wonder what the heck this is on the back of the door here. So
yeah, but at the office, if you're a dev shop, I've seen it before. It's a really not a bad spot to put stuff.
Right.
For reference material like that, and you might get stuck at your desk and you have a problem and you can't solve it, and then you go take a break and you're like, oh yeah, there's the answer right there. Believe it or not, those things happen. All right, let's see. A deep dive into how .NET builds and ships. Oh, I need to read through this because I have some experience with this, and it's not fun.
Yes. So this is the title is pretty self-explanatory, but oftentimes when companies ship software, it can be a bit of, a lot of times you'll compare how you ship software or how you do something with those who are working on it at a grand scale. And certainly Microsoft, they like to tout the fact that they're the largest organization on GitHub, et cetera, et cetera. So a lot of people are going to look to them for guidance. And the true test in that guidance is how they do things themselves. So if a company is shipping software a certain way, that's because they have, the scars to show for it. And so what they do in this article is talk about how they go about, building, preparing, tracking, shipping their software that they have up on GitHub, namely the .NET team. And so they've got all kinds of different ways in which they control that environment. And if you're looking for some exemplars or things that you can follow or maybe replicate within your organization, this might serve as a good template. Now, every organization is different and they have different requirements. So I'm not saying that you need to follow this to the letter of the law, but it does provide some great examples of how and why it needs to be done a certain way.
I like the process they have all lined out
Mm-hmm.
and how each step works and what they do.
Yep.
As far as like prepping a new release, committing the changes, iterating, validating, so on,
Yes.
and release. It's a good outline. I was working with the ASP.NET repo recently, and boy, is that thing daunting to get involved with.
Yeah.
There's a lot of moving pieces. It is a mono repo. It has all of ASP.NET, Core, MVC, Razor Pages, Blazor. All of that is all in one repository. Web API.
Well, that's all linked, right? So monorepos are a style because they allow you to have everything in one place, but they're all linked. So they're not. When you say monorepo, people get this sense of all the source code is in there in that one location. Isn't that unmanageable? And the reality is that they're kind of like soft links to these other repositories that exist elsewhere. So
ASP.NET one, I don't know if it's structured the way it's very much all.
No, it would be because that's the way that monorepos
are
are structured as such. So I know the Kendo UI team does some of that structuring that way on the Kendo UI for React, for example. And the reason why is because it gives you the benefit of having in one place, but also gives you the benefit of having that source control controlled through different repositories. So if you link in, for example, let's say you want to link to the source control of a third-party library, you can do so through a monorepo, but it's represented as a link as opposed to the actual source control itself or the source code itself.
Yeah, it's a very big repo to get involved with. But what's really cool is if you watch back on the ASP.NET stand-up they did a couple weeks ago on Blazor, they talked about how they're going to start doing a monthly community sprint, and they're going to have a day. I think they said it's like every last Tuesday or first Tuesday of the month, something like that.
Right.
They're opening up ASP.NET to a sprint for
Okay.
the community to join and get involved in the open source initiative with ASP.NET in general. And maybe do some Blazor dev or whatever it is to expand the framework and get your contributions committed to the repo through issues and whatnot. So I think that's a pretty cool effort.
Just on that note, I think that's wonderful. And I think that really is the direction that everyone wants Microsoft to go. And I think that that's the only way you can get true community involvement going. I think mistakenly a lot of people make the assumption that people just work on these features by themselves in a silo. Like there's the classic sort of just grab, fork the repository, grab a PR, or grab an issue, submit a PR, that's the way you'll contribute. But sometimes you need people who are emotionally invested in this. So if you have a sort of party and you get people kind of excited and jazzed and like, hey, we would really love to have, like, we've been wanting this feature X for a long time, but we've never had time to get it done. Does anyone want to work on it? That'd be great. Let's discuss it, etc. I think those are what, there's still the human element involved. You got to get people emotionally invested. So, so there's definitely a lot of stuff to be had. Just going through some of the public comments here. Curious Drive says, what if your company is still using TFS? So, well, TFS isn't bad. So it could be worse. You could be using, some some other source control like VSS or something like that, which tried over a WAN link that they have some fun there. So
batch files, copying
sure.
folders.
Yep.
This is version 2, copy paste.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. TypeScript 4.0. I think we talked about the preview of this a couple weeks
ago. Yes. So now 4 is now available. This is a long time coming, and I think that is really going to. Just reading the comments here. Curious Guys now followed up with we do use Robocopy, so Robocopy is good. Anyway, for the right tool for the right job. So TypeScript 4 has been a long time coming. TypeScript's used almost everywhere now. It's crazy the adoption rate for TypeScript. I think that this is nothing but goodness, and I think the evolution of the language. I think Microsoft deserves a large amount of credit here for driving this through. I remember when TypeScript first came out, people laughed at it. People thought, I'm never going to use this. Even the purists on the JavaScript side is like, I don't want types in my JavaScript. It's kind of like getting my peanut butter in your chocolate, that sort of thing. I don't want to do it. And now I think the folks are realizing how good the features that it has built in are really goodness. And for example, at Octopus Deploy, we recently enforced strict null checks, which is a capability of TypeScript, the compiler. And we saw some benefit out of that. We saw some potential problems that were resolved by dragging us kicking and screaming into making sure that we did null checking correctly. So these are some of the benefits that come out of this. And so TypeScript 4 is now available. I'll be really curious to see where the roadmap leads from here. But it's goodness, and you can download it today.
Yeah, very cool. I think TypeScript is necessary these days if you're building any kind of scalable JavaScript infrastructure.
Yeah.
It's it's going to catch problems before you see them coming. It's definitely going to help you modularize your code and get it into a more maintainable state and help you enforce unit testing and all that type of stuff. Not that you can't do those things in JavaScript, it just makes it so much easier.
I think you hit it on the head, which is TypeScript is used well. TypeScript is ideally suited for large code bases because it does so much work, and it's doing what we need computers to do, which is, give it a set of instructions, very specific instructions, and do a lot of repetitious work on those instructions. And so I think if you've got a large code base for a website or for programs or whatnot, you should definitely consider TypeScript, I think.
Yeah, I haven't been able to quite figure out the guidance on that yet. Like, how big should a project be before you start migrating to TypeScript? There's like this thin line where you hit like, all right, my TypeScript configuration code is more than the JavaScript I'm writing. So, you got to hit like a certain point before you start seeing some value in it.
My view on that is that you can opt in immediately, right? So you can start using, if you've got a large JavaScript code base, you can start using TypeScript tools immediately and be okay because it still compiles. So TypeScript is TypeScript is JavaScript, etc. And then you can opt into features. So you can basically disable all the features at first and then turn them on one by one through the tooling, and then start to enforce those restrictions, I guess, if you will, through the TypeScript compiler.
Yeah, I've had some success converting some of my projects over.
I understand. I think the hardest thing that people have to come to grips with is the tools like Webpack. That's where I think things really start to fall down for a lot of folks. It's just, TypeScript isn't the enemy, I don't think. I think it's other tools that really get in the way.
Well, to consume what your TypeScript creates poses a problem. So
it can. You have to expose the right types. You have to, expose the right schemas, etc.
You have to know what you're targeting. Are you targeting Node.js? Are you targeting the web? Targeting the browser is much different than targeting Node.js. And then when you hit the browser, it's what browsers am I targeting? But
you got Babel,
right? IE users.
Yeah, but Babel gets you around that a little bit. So we have tooling for that. So
then you've added another layer to everything. That's why I
Yeah,
said
I know.
there's a trade-off. You
Sure,
have to
sure.
hit a certain size of a project to start seeing the real benefits of this stuff. Because if I've only got 200 lines of JavaScript, then JavaScript might be just what I need.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Um, because I
But
don't
that's a toy.
what I
That's
don't
not a
want is
project.
what. Yeah, that's you calling my projects toys, John.
Yes, they are. I've seen your code, Ed. They're all toys.
My
An island of misfit toys.
But you say that, but should I go back to left pad and how much
Oh
of a
sure, yeah.
disaster that caused?
Yep, yep.
So
Perfect.
if
I love
one of
it.
my projects has an error, it may be the next left pad. Uh, so
You would hope so, man. That's a good problem to have. You got that many packages depending upon you, and then you make one problem. You're like, oops, sorry. What
I've
does this
got
button do?
one that has like I thought it would be. So it's funny. I built this thing on my Twitch show, and I thought it would be just a gist reference.
Yes,
And I was like, this is a pattern to follow. It is not a library. It's not a framework. It is a
it is
pattern.
now the standard.
And I put it on a gist, and people kept commenting on the gist. Can you please put this on NuGet?
Ah,
And I was like, all right, fine. I'll put it on NuGet and see if anybody wants to download it there. So I finally gave in. I put it on NuGet, and it got put in another dependency. So it's a
oh, there you
dependency
go.
on something much larger, and
Yeah.
now it has like
Now
hundreds
it's in
of thousands of
JSON.net.
downloads.
Yeah, now
So
it's in JSON.net.
yeah,
And
so
then you're
now
walking away
yeah.
like, no more autographs, please, no more autographs. Just swatting your way through the people using your dependency.
So it has left
Perfect.
pad potential, is what I'm saying. It
Yes,
has left pad
perfect.
potential. If it gets broken, the dominoes in the house of cards start collapsing.
Yep, yep.
Uh,
So
I
go grab TypeScript today,
Yep.
the latest version.
Check out TypeScript, and you can go online too. What's really cool about TypeScript is you can actually like test it online if you want to
Oh God, yeah,
check
yeah.
it
There's
out. You can
tons.
type
There's
in,
tons.
you can type in some exercises on the online experience, and it'll live
Yep,
compile it over to JavaScript and show you what the output looks like.
yep.
Most of the time, TypeScript output doesn't look like any JavaScript you'd recognize anyway, but it's still pretty cool to see that it can do it in real time. Um, but
Dude, most
TypeScript
programming
is
languages you write in, which gets compiled down, doesn't look like the languages you wrote in originally. You
true.
know, yeah.
It's good job security. TypeScript. It's good job security, in my opinion. It is. It's really
Awesome,
is. If
awesome.
you learn TypeScript, that is a skill you can take with you and
I
use in
agree.
your career.
Yes. Good investment of your time. That's something that often comes up with developers, which is I am going to invest in this. Is this going to be worthwhile for my future? And I would say with TypeScript, the answer is a resounding yes.
I think it shows too that you're also knowledgeable of possibly JavaScript, but also typed languages at the same time.
Yep.
So if you're going to hire a TypeScript developer, you can pivot them to JavaScript. You can pivot them to C# and other languages possibly,
Yeah. Yeah.
and have somebody that's very flexible in their role. So it's a
Mhm.
good thing to learn.
Yep. I agree.
Well, I think that does it for us today, John. Are you gonna
Oh,
go
there's
play
one
some
more.
Flight
There's one more. I had
Simulator?
one
There's
more.
one more. Oh,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
missed
Sorry.
one.
Sorry. This one was cool.
Let's see. Oh,
It's in your
yep, I
tab.
see it. I
There you
do
go.
see it.
Sorry.
I thought that was the StreamYard tab up there.
This is an older link, but it's like few months old, etc. But I thought it was really good. Now, just to halt you for a second. So these are REST API guidelines. So if
Mhm.
you're creating RESTful APIs, that is, you're creating web service endpoints that utilize HTTP verbs and utilizes specific isms in the way they're constructed. These are a set of guidelines that Microsoft has come out with. Now, that's to say that no one else hasn't, and there certainly are people who have. However, and this is where I want you to show the names at the top, the people who are working on this spec are not slouches. You've got folks like Mark Rasinovich, you've got folks like Rob Howard, you've got folks like Rick Rashid, you've got John Shuchuk. These are guys and gals who worked very deeply on some of the major critical aspects of .NET, of Windows, et cetera, So lots of really good neurons have been utilized to produce these guidelines. And so if you're creating RESTful APIs or REST APIs, you owe it to yourself to take a look at this spec. And it's not a hard spec. It reads like an RFC. It uses the same must, should not sort of nomenclature that you see in most RFCs. It's a great little spec for you to check out and gives you kind of guidance around how to do things around certain conditions, etc.
Yeah, I just bookmarked it because I've used it in the past to solve a dispute over
Yes.
how to handle something security related. I can't remember the exact scenario, but we were discussing whether we were doing something correctly or incorrectly regarding, I
Right.
don't remember if it was cores or some other security thing.
Yeah.
And this validated that we were doing
Yeah.
things correctly.
There's often those discussions come back like, should we return an error with a HTTP 200, or should we return an HTTP 201, or should we return a 404, or there's all those questions that come up. Now, this is not to say that specs like this have not been written in the past. There have certainly been many specs that have been written like this. However, Microsoft has a lot of experience writing API specs and APIs, and so they've put in a lot of that thinking in here.
Yeah, this is really good information.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm still trying to remember what we were doing. I think it was cores related though.
Yes.
And we had a little bike shedding moment. It was like, well, somebody's got to have best practices online somewhere that we can reference and solve this argument. And this was it. This is where we ended up at the end of the day. So it's really good stuff, especially if you have a situation like that where you're trying to solve a little work dispute at like a weekly stand-up or something. You're like, my way is the right way. Smart people approve. See right there.
Yes.
Smart people said, I'm doing it the right way. So that's always a good thing. Back up your claims. If you have a initiative you're trying to drive, it's always good to back it up with documentation, best practices, and examples.
Agreed.
And, this is one way to do it.
Agreed.
Good stuff, John. Great link.
Really
good stuff. We'll do this again next week. Does that sound good, John?
Yeah. Sounds good.
Every Monday, same time, same place, same channel. We got stuff coming up all week long on the Code It Live channel. So make sure you hit the follow button, tune in for all the great shows that we have coming up. We just did a Silverlight sunsetting, so that's all down in the past show queue if you want to check any of that stuff out. We have big events from time to time where we bring on a lot of guests and things. We've had Daniel Roth on the show and all sorts of stuff. So
nice,
really great stuff. Curious Drive, thanks for joining us once again, and keep using Robocopy for all your deployments. No.
They're only jokes
John
that we
has
appreciate.
something better than Robocopy for you, right, John?
Yeah, just move, just the MV command.
Better than
Yeah.
Robocopy?
Yeah. Of course. But I'm trying to make it funny now. I'm trying to just be like, okay, can we just use the move command? So.
Just take the whole drive out of the computer and put a new
command
in.
There you go. Put it into an envelope. Yep.
Yeah. Been there, done that as well.
Yes.
I think I'm joking that when legal calls and they're like, all right, somebody subpoenaed all of our code.
Oh, yeah.
Go clone everybody's machines and put these drives in a box and send them to this address.
Yes.
That's always fun.
Yes. Anyone got a Phillips head?
Yeah. Been there, done that, got the t-shirt, don't want to get it again.
Nope.
All right, John, thanks a lot, man. We will
Cheers, bud.
See you all next week.
All right.